When I was applying for a student loan to go to university, I did not have a bank account. We had tried to set up a student bank account, but I kept being rejected, apparently for my credit history, of which I had none, and I was essentially being stonewalled by the banks. So because we didn't have time to sort this issue out before I was set to begin my first year, we agreed to set my parents' bank account to receive the loan and for them to make the payments. If you don't know how student loans work in the UK, you get two loans. A tuition fees loan of around £9,000, which is automatically paid to the university, and a maintenance loan of about £4,000, which gets paid to you to pay for accommodation. I had a very rough time at university, and my anxiety and stress got completely out of hand, to the point where I was having regular panic attacks. Partway through the second year, I went on temporary withdrawal to seek therapy, at which point I was declared overpaid on my maintenance loan. Since I did not need accommodation for the whole year and the overpayment was to be deducted from my next year's loans, when I returned the next year to restart my second year, things did not get better and I ended up permanently dropping out. This amounted in the student loan company saying I was overpaid a total of £22.50 of money I did not need for accommodation, and they demanded I pay it back immediately. I obviously did not have the money, and my dad said he would handle it. A thing to note is that my parents were separated at the time I applied for my loans, but still had a joint account and are currently in the process of divorcing. I don't know the details of the divorce process, and I don't want to know. My dad then proceeded to drag his heels on making the repayments, always pushing back on repaying them, resulting in me repeatedly getting threatening phone calls and letters from SLC about it. This has been going on for over a year, and I finally confronted my dad, who I am currently living with, today about it, and he admitted that the money that was received from SLC was gone. Apparently, between the two of them, my parents had managed to spend the money that was supposed to go towards my accommodation fees, and the money just isn't there anymore. I told my dad that they would simply have to pay SLC back with their own money, since they decided they were going to spend money that they weren't supposed to spend, and he deflected blame to my mom, asking why she can't pay the money back and why he has to. This conversation just occurred about an hour ago, and I am very frustrated because I now have to carry the burden of having the debt pinned on me. Because my parents spent money that wasn't theirs to spend, and the two of them would apparently rather fight over who should pay the money back. My mom takes everything I say to her, even if it's assertive personally. She is very insecure. She's extremely negative and assumes the worst in everything. Like she assumes everywhere I go there will be crime, or it's dangerous in some way. If I try to disagree, usually in the form of setting and enforcing a boundary, she gets even angrier and threatens to withhold things, gives me the silent treatment, or says she's sick and I caused it, when really she's just making herself sick. She does a lot of heavy projecting. She has enabled everyone around me, except for my father perhaps. They all side with her and think I'm wrong. Like I met this really nice woman who I really like, and my mom isn't crazy about me spending time with her because I would be taking attention away from my mom. My mom is very reclusive, diabetic, and just a big mess. She also infantilized me, called me names, and was rude in many other ways. She has a massive germ phobia. She doesn't want me or her to go anywhere indoors unless she's double masked, which I find to be outlandish. She won't allow me to spend time with friends without being extremely concerned. I'm 31, and I shouldn't have to keep dealing with this, but I've tried in vain to find a better job or employment and to no avail, and I'm stuck with a dead-end remote call center job, which pays decently, but isn't enough hours, so it functions sort of like a minimum wage job. I don't have siblings or any other relatives I trust or am close to. I have friends, but at least one of them enables my mom's behavior. One recognizes it but won't do anything, and the other is too new of a friend to know. I do have an acquaintance who I see here and there who is aware of it. I do live by myself, but she works for me as an employee, and I am not comfortable with this. Whenever I try to go to fire her and replace her with someone else, she throws a hissy fit, and I get no help because everyone she comes across sides with her eventually. I'm just lost, despondent, and depressed, as well as overwhelmed. So I was laughing at how ridiculous this story was from when I was growing up. I am now 40, one female, and at the time I was about 14 or 15 years old. For some background, my dad was in the Army for about 15 years, with most of those years being served in the National Guard. He is now retired from that and from being a truck driver. When I was in about junior high, my dad started long-haul truck driving across the U.S. From my dad being in the military, he had a ton of old BDUs, green undershirts, and socks. He also still had his dress uniforms. So, of course, when you go from a career that is active to a very sentient career, there is some weight gain expectations. When my dad would run several miles and go on 3-month stretches of being at exercises in places like Nevada, he went from 3 5-month stretches of being out on the road in his Freightliner. My dad went from a fairly healthy weight to, I would say, overweight. I can't make fun of him for this or say anything negative, as I was overweight and get the struggle. I am saying all of this to say that none of his military things fit him anymore, and every so often he would squeeze his way into one of his army green t-shirts. My dad is also very entitled and also was abusive to myself and my siblings. So what was ours was his, and what was his was his. When I was in about 8th or 9th grade, I had got this shirt, I think, from our local thrift shop. It was an army greenish-brownish color. This shirt also had a pocket on the left-hand side that had like a little floral design on it. It was one that I wore every once in a while. You could tell that it was a shirt meant for a young female woman based on the design of the shirt. So, my dad comes home from off the road and he sees that I am wearing my shirt. He starts screaming at me that it was his shirt and to take it off and that I am a ducking thief going through his things. Blah, blah, blah. I am trying to tell him through tears that it wasn't his shirt, that it was mine. Look at the pocket with flowers on it. How can this be your shirt, Dad, when it has flowers on the pocket? He keeps screaming at me that I am a ducking little liar and take his goddamn shirt off right ducking now. And all the while he is yelling at me. He is threatening to slap the heck out of me. I said fine. I changed out of the shirt and gave it to him. It was so funny and so infuriating at the same time to see this 400-pound man squeeze into this size X-large female shirt. It was stretched over his huge beer belly, and he would sit on the couch with this smug-ass grin like he won or something. The best part in all of this was when I was a freshman in college. I came home for the holidays, and he tossed the shirt back at me. I was like, what? Why are you giving me this stretched-out, torn-up shirt back? He says to me. I was fueling up and someone laughed at me and said I was wearing a chick's shirt. Why didn't you ducking? Tell me. I just laughed at him, threw it in the garbage, and said I did. By the way, I tossed it because it was ripped up from his stretching it over his belly and had diesel fuel stains all over it. No thanks. Edit to add. I also remember that the day he took the shirt from me and claiming that it was his, he literally guard-dogged this shirt. He sat on the shirt. This man literally sat on a shirt to keep me from taking it. He sat in his spot on the couch and sat on the shirt, and every time he got up to go take a dump or whatever, he took the shirt with him. That maturity of this man about a damn shirt. I, 26 female, have 3 siblings, 25 male, 23 female, and 11 male. My mother has a strained relationship with all her older children stemming from emotional to physical abuse. In January, my mother and I had a fight because she constantly jokes about how she only likes my youngest brother because us as 3 big kids were insane and too hard work. Honestly, you can tell she does indeed treat him differently. She makes his lunches and all his meals, whereas we had to make our own lunches for school from 1st grade so she could sleep longer. The same for breakfast and sometimes dinner, if she was tired from her day. This is a petty example, but it's an easy one to show that she does treat him different than us. After the falling out with me, My other brother is high on the autism spectrum and lived with her, was kicked out, and she threatened to stab him and beat him pretty bad because he didn't take his meds. After both these incidents with myself and my brother, she told us not to contact her and my youngest brother ever again, so we didn't. It's been months no contact, and now she's complaining to my grandparents that my youngest brother is upset because we've not been talking, but she told us to stay away, which we can prove, and we're just complying. I used to go to the same middle school my mother worked at as a guidance counselor. Now, something to know is that my whole family avoids confrontation. Both my parents and my sister are content to apologize and cower in front of a Karen, but not me. In this middle school, all the staff knew me and loved me. All the kids knew and loved my mom as well. The parents, on the other hand, believed she was their own personal punching bag and yelled at her for things that she could no control and which were not in her job description. Something else to know, when school ended, my mom would go to Carline to direct people, and I would sit in the chairs in the front office waiting for her, either reading a book or playing on my phone or whatever. This is where our story begins. Cast: me, malicious, entitled Demon Father, Poor School Worker, and Front Desk Lady. Now, our story. As the guidance counselor's daughter, I overhear things, and I never repeat them. Lately, I had been hearing about a situation with a girl I don't know and her parents. From what I could tell, the girl's father wanted to see her, but the girl was with her mother and absolutely did not want to see him. She had been avoiding him for a while before this occurred during Carline. Entitled, Demon Father stomps inside the office and starts yelling at one of the workers, not sure who it was. Entitled, Demon Father, I want to see my daughter. I want a meeting with her right now. Poor school worker, I'm sorry, sir, but she isn't here and we can't. Entitled, Demon Father, I don't care. I want to see my daughter. You people are the reason she doesn't want to see me. You are keeping me from my daughter. Poor school worker and front desk lady are trying to calm him down. Front desk lady, sir, please stop yelling, we're trying. Entitled, Demon Father, shut up. I want my daughter, bring me my daughter right now. This ensues for a long time, with the guy cursing at and blaming the workers for his daughter not wanting to see him. Now I'm getting mad, and I know I shouldn't have done this because it was out of place, but these people were my friends and my mom's friends, and they didn't do anything wrong. So I stepped in with a snappy tone and a cold glare, and I calmly said, Me, sir, maybe your daughter doesn't want to see you because you're acting like a brat and a bully. Perhaps if you calmed down and began acting like an adult, she would talk to you. No wonder she doesn't want to see you. This guy looked at me, the middle schooler who had just roasted him, and his face turned red, and I could see he was fuming. But he didn't want to argue back to a middle schooler in a middle school, so he angrily stomped out. From what I heard, the daughter had ran as fast as she could to Carline and leaped into her mother's car to avoid him.